Welcome to Igniting the CEO Within podcast, where we interview successful, high-level professionals to discover lessons they've learned throughout their career that can help you ignite the CEO within you. I'm Mark McFatridge, and I'll be your host for the next 20 minutes or so. Each episode of Igniting the CEO Within is sponsored by Quade, a community of CEOs and entrepreneurs that offers an exciting opportunity for executives to become licensed circle directors and earn annual recurring six-figure revenues. After completing the Quade Licensed Circle Director program, you'll lead your own peer advisory circles, helping other CEOs and entrepreneurs excel in their professional and personal lives while providing a community of support, accountability, and challenge. We help you do this while only putting in 60 hours per year per circle. If you'd like to learn more, go to quadecircle.com. On our show today, we have Dr. Jim Kanichirayil, founder of Cascading Leadership. Dr. Kanichirayil, you've had an amazing career so far. If you were to take a look at one key leadership trait that you've seen that will differentiate great leaders from poor leaders, what would that be? What stands out to you?
There's a lot that could be said about what are those differentiating traits, but I think from a mindset perspective, probably the most effective mindset that a leader can have is default to why not, thinking why not instead of we can't. Why not us? Why can't we? That mindset will take you a lot further, especially when it comes to the core principles of leadership. It's about leading through others and having others execute. So whenever an idea gets brought to the table, you should be in that mindset of why not? Why wouldn't this work? And trying to figure that out and trying to run experiments off of it so that you can at least test and iterate based on what actual results are there versus what you have in your mindset of predetermined notions about what can and can't work.
Yeah, I love that. It's said or differently is find a way to say yes, right? So many of us have that first inclination is to say no, right? As opposed to why not, or yeah, let's figure that out, or let's see how we make that happen. And, I think one of the keys that I've seen too, which ties into it, is get started, right? As opposed to trying to overanalyze things and see and just never ever get started. I don't know if you see that in the folks that you work with as well.
Yeah, I mean that's sort of a core belief that I have is, talk less and do more. And I'm naturally defaulted to have a bias for action, so I always want to at least get a framework in place and then test it. I think one of the biggest things that keeps organizations and leaders from getting traction is due to the fact that they spend way too much time in the planning stages and not enough time in execution. Because the biggest lessons that you're going to get are from the mistakes that you make in the process of execution. So if you want to actually get traction in the marketplace, have a rough theory and put it into action. And going back to sort of the why not mentality, I think one of the gaps or one of the flaws or mistakes that leaders often make is that they become the single source of truth, where everybody is coming to them for advice on this, that, or the other thing. And by having that why not mentality, you're reorienting yourself to allow the person that's coming to you to test the theory and start on the execution pieces so that they can actually learn and expand their leadership. And it keeps you out of that position of being the choke point in whatever decision is being made. So those two things are related. Have a why not mentality and have a bias for action where the results and the things that you learn from execution are actually framing how you move forward and build to whatever objective that you're trying to reach.
Yeah, I love that. I think, when you start talking about that with entrepreneurs and folks that um, are building something from scratch, that's not natural, right? To do something through other people, right? The initial reaction is, I need to know everything that's going on. I need to make those decisions. I need to, right? How do you work with individuals to move them away from that mentality and almost into an empowerment mentality of working with people that they've assembled on their teams?
So that's going to be tough for me to answer because typically in organizations that I work with and the organizations that I'm most comfortable with are organizations that are going from 0 to 1, literally building something from nothing. I've always operated in the startup space and specifically pre product market fit, pre ideal
Hmm.
customer profile, all of that being defined. So founder led organizations is typically where I operate. So in a founder led organization, there's only so much that you can delegate because you are a team of one or a team of few. You're running very lean. So you have to get in the trenches as well, um, and be able to execute. Now, when you start, when you've established traction and then you're moving to scale, that's when you start to need, that's when you have to start inventorying what can you delegate? Where is my time best spent? Where is my high value time versus my administrative time? And you start delegating those administrative things, which might be growth opportunities for the operators that you're building around you to help you transition from being a founder led organization to being more operations led and moving into that scaling space. So it's tough to do. You and I have led enough teams to know that one of the toughest transitions is moving from that individual high performing individual contributor into a line level leader role. And as entrepreneurs, when you're going from 0 to 1, that's also a tough part of your transition. You just need to be ruthless in evaluating where is my time best spent. There's a great article that was written several years back by one of the early um, employees in Facebook, and it was called "Letting Go of Your Legos." And I don't know if that's the exact
Yeah.
title, but the principle in it is for the organization to get from where it is to the next stage. You as a leader need to be deliberate about handing off things that you might enjoy in the current state if you ever hope to evolve into that future state. And this is where team dynamics and talent strategy come in as well, because you also have to realize that some of the things that got you from 0 to 1 won't take you from 1 to 1 million.
Hmm.
So you have to evaluate who are the people that you have and are they willing to grow themselves to get to that next stage. So those are all like complicated things that you have to go through, but it all starts with being ruthless about what is the most high value thing that I can be working on and what else can I shift off to other people to have them execute and I provide oversight and guidance on it.
Yeah, I love that. I think said differently, where are you most valuable to your company, right? And that evolves over time, right? As you said, when you're a founder and you're wearer of many hats, you are most valuable in all of those situations. However, if you want to scale at any level, you can't be everything at once, and you've got to identify those people. And tagging on to that, and you said this as well, is um, the people you bring on at first may not be the people that are able to get you from whatever 10 to 100 or whatever that is, and that's okay, and you can't feel guilty about that. You've got to provide them the opportunities to be successful. You've got to provide them the opportunities to grow into those roles, but you owe it to them to also put them in position to be successful.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the other things that this gets into is where is your mindset in terms of why are you starting this organization in the first place? Is the goal to be like the next unicorn? If that's the goal, then you're going to approach the business a certain way. Whereas if your goal is to build a nice lifestyle and be sort of a boutique or lifestyle brand, that requires a different set of people and a different set of commitments. And you need to be upfront with both of those so that you're not giving your team whiplash as you continue to grow. I think one of the mistakes that people make is, and I see this all the time, people in that 0 to 1 stage are already thinking about scaling. And my advice, right or wrong, to them is we're not ready to have a scaling conversation. You don't even have product market fit. You don't know who your ideal customer profile is. What you need to do is iterate and execute so you can determine what spaces you need to be in that gives you the opportunity to scale. So right now it's just growth, and the right kind of growth is where you should be focused on. So part of the lesson in being able to do this successfully is being honest about what stage are you really in and what are the conversations that are most relevant in this moment that's going to get us from the stage that we are to that next evolutionary stage that allows us to continue to progress. And what does progression look like? If you haven't defined those things, you're always going to be pivoting week to week. And that's, there's something to be said about founder enthusiasm, but as you're trying to grow as an organization, that founder enthusiasm can be problematic because you might be making your teams pivot too quickly and not build consistency and discipline towards a direction. So you need to be directionally focused. You need to be disciplined about that focus, and you can't lie to yourself about what stage you're really in. Have the conversations that are relevant for the stage that you're in instead of, you know, actually, the TLDR version of what I'm saying is focus on first things first. Don't worry about 3 steps down the road when you haven't even completed step one.
Yeah, I think that's true. I might challenge you just a little bit on, at a minimum, in the back of your head, you've got to have some ideas of where you are ultimately going to be most valuable, where the alignment of the thing that I'm good at and the thing that I really enjoy comes into play. So that's probably a balancing factor that you've got to put into play, right?
Yeah. And that's actually a really good point, because one of the things that we tend to wrap ourselves into is this idea of continuous progression. Like up or out mentality seems to be embedded in founders of a certain age. And one of the things that you have to realize is that some people, not everybody wants to step up into some sort of leadership role. And that's fine. You need to
Hmm.
be okay with having a batch of your employee population being high level operators, and be okay with that, rather than trying to force them into roles or competencies that they're not skilled or don't want to do. So it goes to, your point about, what am I good at and what do I enjoy doing? Your people are the same. You need to play to their strengths, and you also need to level set with them on a regular basis of what is it that you want to accomplish? What is it that you want to do? Not everybody is designed to, climb the ladder as the organization grows. And being honest about that is going to be really important when it comes to having the best set of core people in your team possible. Because if you're trying to force fit people into things that they don't want to do, you're going to have a lot of churn, and that's not going to help you on the organizational growth side either.
Yeah, I love that. I once had a friend tell me that, to have a royal flush, you still have to have a 10, right? So everybody has a role to play in that.
Yeah.
W-
And,
w-
going off of that, I look back on my career at this point, and it's probably something that I should have realized a lot earlier. The reason why I don't like working in larger organizations is because it's too confining. I like to run fast and break things. I like having 15 different things on my plate, and you manage across all those things. That's where I'm strongest. If you have a lot of process and procedure in an environment, it's going to drive me nuts. And your people are the same way. You have to kind of understand where their capabilities and their strengths are, and build the kind of organization that best fits the greatest chunk of your team as possible.
mhm. Yeah, I love that. Talk about cascading leadership, and what does an engagement with you in that entity look like?
So I'll try to shorten this up as much as possible, but Cascading Leadership started off as a proof of concept. I was working for a coaching organization that wanted to move away from the referral based revenue pipeline that they had built, and they wanted to be able to acquire new clients. Their existing playbook, which was a multiple $1,000 investment with consultants, didn't work. And I tested out their playbook to the point where I did like 6,000 pieces of outbound with like zero response on all the things that they said were baked into the playbook. And I was like, well, this isn't going to work. And this isn't working. Here are the results. So I brought up the question, how can we get at our customers before they're actually in the evaluation stage? How do we get in front of them in a meaningful way before they're ever looking for a solution like ours? So I spun up Cascading Leadership as a podcast to prove that this would work. And we ended up like interviewing somewhere in the neighborhood of 200 to 300 VP and executive level HR leaders, but that didn't get adopted by the company I was working for. So I just spun it off into as my own agency. And now what I do is I help founder-led HR tech, TA tech, and coaching organizations go from 0 to 1 by helping them get in front of their key buyers in a frictionless way. So if you're pre-product market fit, transitioning from referral based to actual a more predictable revenue pipeline, or you're just trying to figure out, how do I sell without sounding like a seller
Hmm.
and build authentic relationships? That's what I do. I help organizations that are in that early stage integrate sales, marketing, and partnerships into a unified motion in the market. And now I've done this, for the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years now, and helping clients execute on the stuff that I did as a one-off proof of concept several years ago.
Love it. Love it. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
LinkedIn is the best. That's the easiest way. I'm usually on LinkedIn all the time. So just DM me there or send me a connection request, and we'll go from there.
Man, thank you for taking some time and sharing your insights with our audience. Really appreciate you. Love what you're doing. My presumption is you're working at a minimum nationally and not just in the Milwaukee area, right?
Yeah, I'm working nationally and also internationally. I helped a couple engagements ago a company from Singapore who was an HR tech company there springboard into the US and establish a foothold. And we ended up in the ed tech space. So for international companies that want to break into the US, that's part of what I regularly do. So if you have new products or new territories that you want to launch and you don't really know, okay, what's the playbook that we need to use here? I help you build that playbook and execute it, so that you can expand your horizons and expand your territories.
Love it. Hey, Dr. Jim, thank you again for hanging out with me and sharing your insights. For those out there, as a reminder, Igniting the CEO Within is sponsored by Quade, a community of CEOs and entrepreneurs that's provided an exciting opportunity for executives to become licensed circle directors and earn an annual recurring six-figure revenue while putting in only about 60 hours per year per circle. To find out more, visit quadecircle.com. Until next time, keep igniting that CEO within you. I'm Mark McFatridge. Thanks.